The world export is a market which is divided among different nations. You can have your slice of the world export market. We had 2% of the world export market in 1950. Our slice got reduced to 1.05%, that is roughly 1%, in 1960. And today our slice is less than half of 1%, 0.43%. Less than half of 1% of the world export market. You will still find the budget speech saying in a complimentary manner what fine progress we have made in exports. This is no progress. We are going down and down. You may show progress because of the erosion in the value of the rupee. You may show progress because of other exchange fluctuations. Undoubtedly, because of the inherent strength of this country, some progress there will be there. But the real point is, it is a drearily sluggish progress. Take tourism. We could be attracting more tourists than any other country. Which other country can show the monuments and the historical sites that India can? You go to, say Paris, or you go to any of the other places, say in Switzerland, and you compare the places in India and you tell yourself, what could this country not show by way of attraction for tourists, if only it was rightly organized? What are the figures? We attracted 1 million tourists in 1986. There was a great brouhaha, 1 million tourists. But the people were not told the facts. We get 1 million tourists for the whole country. Singapore, one city, gets 3 million tourists every year. We earned from tourism 1,800 crores. The country called Thailand, which is not comparable to India at all, earned from tourism $1.5 billion, which is more than 1,800 crores. But were the people told these facts? Spain, just one country of Europe, smaller than India, and nothing to compare with India, gets 47 million tourists every year. 47 million. We get 1 million. But we are quite happy. And in fact, that's the point I made in the presence of the Secretary in charge of tourism. The facts are incontrovertible. You could solve the foreign exchange problem of this country purely from tourism, if only you know how to handle the matter. In the whole of India, we have got 34,000 rooms, hotel rooms for tourists. One single city of Singapore has 30,000 rooms. That means virtually one city of Singapore has about the same number of rooms as the whole of India. And you call it great progress in tourism. In short, some of us set our sights so low that it almost makes me think, are we thinking of some African country, some barbaric country, or are you talking of the world's most civilized nation? Once upon a time at least. What are you dealing with? It is because I am so proud of my country that I am saying all this. I am not saying it in a spirit of criticism. I am saying it in a spirit of distress and anger that you should find so much ignorance about the world events and the world figures. Mind you, it's not as if these figures are secret. Every single ministry should know or does know all these figures, but it chooses to keep them quiet. Let me come to the question of complexity and stability very quickly, and then I come to the end. Simplicity is always to be desired. The Prime Minister started by saying in 84, he wanted to have a direct taxes code, which would be understood by everybody without a tax consultant at his elbow. People like me are just parasites on society because we don't produce wealth. We are unproductive parasites on society. But the tax consultants will not be put out of business by this budget. In fact, their income will increase enormously as a result of this budget. This gives you an idea of what the complexity of the budget is. I won't go into the details for lack of time, as I said, but you take it from me that Income Tax Act, Wealth Tax Act, Gift Tax Act were never so complex as they will emerge after this budget. Take stability. The Prime Minister started the regime by saying he wanted stability. We had in 1985 a paper called Long-Term Fiscal Policy. It's almost forgotten now because nobody refers to it. But the long-term fiscal policy said, let this country know, like the other mature democracies, what is going to come, so that you are not taken by surprise every year. You know for 5 years in advance what the rates are going to be. This is the system in the United States, Canada, and in other countries. Now, the long-term fiscal policy said that estate duty is really unprofitable to the nation because the cost of collection almost equals, if not exceeds, the revenue collected, so they abolished it. Now, in this budget, you are told there will be an inheritance tax, which is the same as estate duty. Again, who will pay for all this? The poor man who may have himself no estate duty to pay. But he will pay in indirect taxes, if not in direct taxes, the cost of maintaining an establishment to deal with all this. And when the laws are changed so frequently, how do you expect the department to behave in a manner which is fair and just? I would like to tell you about the fairness of administration. It's not a matter arising from the budget, but it is linked with the budget. I don't mind however harsh the law is, so long as it is administered in a fair and reasonable spirit. But I am sorry to say that because of great pressures from the top, even people who are fair-minded intrinsically, who are men of conscience, sometimes allow wrong assessments to be made because they know that otherwise they would be misunderstood. In the United States, if you see the Attorney General's office, there is a rotunda where these words are inscribed. The United States wins every time justice is done to a citizen in a court of law. It's a beautiful sentence. Don't forget it. The United States wins every time justice is done to any citizen in a court of law. So the United States fights against you as the citizen, and you win. The United States government says it's my victory. Because if justice is done to you, I am proud that I run a government where the citizen can get justice. The exact opposite is the attitude of the government of India. Have you heard of the government of India being proud that justice is done to any citizen? On the contrary, the Direct Taxes Amendment Bill seeks to put at naught at least 6 judgments of the Supreme Court and at least 12 judgments of the High Court. This budget, the finance bill, will set at naught at least 3 judgments of the Supreme Court because they have no respect for the judiciary. They regard the judiciary as an interference in the work of carrying on the administration. I come to the last point. What are the provisions which are either basically unfair or are in bad faith? Let me deal with 2 provisions which are basically unfair. First, the threshold for taxation. It is 18,000. It was fixed at 15,000 in 1981. 15,000 of 1981 would correspond to 25,000 today. So if you wanted the citizens of India to be in the same position in which they were in 1981, you should have at least 25,000 as the threshold and not start taxing people at 18,000. Now the figure of 18,000 was introduced in 1985 in the first budget of the present regime of Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. If you took 85 figure of 18,000, it corresponds to 22,000 today. So in any event, you must increase the threshold to 22,000. But nothing is done. I call it patently unfair to a large section of the people who deserve to have some relief. Don't remove the excise on toys and on erasure or on pencil sharpeners because frankly it is meaningless. In fact, the effect would be such that you don't have the coin available in which you can be either repaid or you can pay the shopkeeper. The coin is not available. What are we fooling the people about? Why waste paper? Why waste 4 pages of 4 pages of the budget papers and the valuable time of the House talking of things which are really meaningless? What problems are facing the country and what trivialities we are engaged in? Now the second thing, which to my mind is absolutely nonsensical, is the provision in section 44AC, which is sought to be introduced in the Income Tax Act. Just consider whether a mine has been applied. In fact, that raises the question, is there a mine available in North Block which can be applied to these problems? Because I can't understand, how do these proposals ever get placed before Parliament? I'll put before you the proposal and you can judge for yourself. 44AC wants to say this: whoever buys from the government or from any limited company any alcoholic liquors or any scrap or waste, either industrial or non-industrial. That means, for example, you have the scrap, you may pick up the waste from, say, a textile mill, which is afterwards used as cotton waste. Or you may pick up waste from a steel works, there may be the strippings, etc. Small things which are really valueless, but you can melt them again and afterwards sell them as steel. So if you are buying alcoholic liquor, or you are buying forest produce, maybe timber or anything else, or you are buying scrap or waste, it will be conclusively presumed that your margin of profit on the sale you will ultimately make will be 60% taxable income. 60% taxable income. Now that's a conclusive presumption. So if after buying this you show that there is a loss, you are not allowed to show it. You have to pay tax on the basis that you will make 60% profit later. And mind you, this question arises at the time when you are just buying the stuff. You will tell, of course, later which day may come in the same year or may not come in the same year. Then secondly, the man who sells you this stuff must deduct tax at 20% or ask you to pay the tax at 20%. So suppose he gets 120 rupees from you. He has to pay 20 rupees on your account to the government. And he must keep only 100 rupees. It's a provision which is absolute nonsense. I don't find any other word in the English language to call this provision. First of all, has any schoolboy ever heard of alcoholic liquors, forest produce, scrap and waste having the same value and the same margin of profit? Have you heard of it? Would you credit with intelligence any schoolboy who told you that this is the position? But this is sought to be made into the law of India. And mind you, what is the reason given in the explanatory memorandum? That people have been found to evade tax. But what is your department doing? You have got the power to send people to jail. You have the power to raid their establishment. You say the people buy stuff and they go away. But then make it a law that the name and address will be given. How do you sell your Indira Vikas Patra? How do you sell it?